Tonight we're stepping into places you were never meant to be. An abandoned farmhouse where bootsteps echo down a dead hallway. A lone camper who hears, "I see you," whispered from a wall of midnight. A cave beside the railroad where something growls, then barks. A Louisiana hunter who realizes the forest is answering back with a steam whistle in the dark. And, in the Ouachitas, two towering shapes glide between pines, eyes burning like coals. These aren't reenactments. These are the moments the camera didn't mean to catch. Raw, unfiltered, and impossible to unsee. Stay with us, because the deeper we go, the stranger it gets. And the last clip might change how you feel about walking past a tree line after sundown. It was an ordinary evening in the thick, humid woods of Louisiana, where the air hangs heavy, the cypress trees rise like ancient guardians, and every rustle in the underbrush carries an unsettling weight. For Mike, an avid hunter who had spent much of his life in the wilderness,
the creature was hairy, black shiny hair, but I'm pretty sure it was a Bigfoot.
This should have been just another trip. He was armed with his rifle, confident, and accustomed to the dangers of the wild. But that night, the forest had something waiting for him, something that would change his life forever. Mike recalls it clearly, even years later. He says his knees were knocking so violently that he could hear the sound. His teeth chattered, not from the chill of the night, but from sheer terror, and his hands, gripping the rifle, shook uncontrollably. He wasn't a man easily frightened, but this was different. Out of the silence came a guttural roar, so loud it rattled through the trees. Just 20 yards away, a massive, hairy figure emerged. It was standing upright, bipedal, shoulders broad, arms long, and its eyes locked directly on him. From behind the trunk of a tree, the creature glared, and its rage seemed directed entirely at Mike.
Stay back there! Stay back!
He showed me his teeth. They were just big and flat.
Stay back, or I'll shoot!
Yeah, I said, it looks like I'm gonna have to shoot this thing, And so I knew I would have to make a headshot.
Mike's instincts screamed at him to shoot, and he raised his rifle. His finger lingered on the trigger, sweat dripping into his eyes, heart hammering against his ribs. But something inside him hesitated. He wondered if he shot and missed, or even if he hit. What would it do? Would it attack? Would there be more of them? His thoughts blurred with panic, tears forming in his eyes despite his desperate attempts to hold them back. He was staring into the face of something not supposed to exist.
Where I come from, but he wouldn't do it. I had the crosshairs right between his eyes, and it's like about a 20-yard shot, maybe 15 yards. And as I was getting ready to pull the trigger, he let out a roar like a lion.
And then the moment took a terrifying turn. From about 100 yards to the north came a sound unlike anything he had ever heard before. A whistle. Not a bird's call, not the whine of an animal, but a piercing, shrill whistle, like that of a steam engine echoing through the forest. At first, Mike tried to dismiss it, but when it came again, longer, louder, and even more unnatural, his blood ran cold. The creature in front of him roared in response, a booming, lion-like bellow that shook the ground beneath his feet. Mike realized with horror that this beast wasn't alone. That whistle had been some kind of signal.
That's when I heard the other one coming. He was coming.
Stay back! Stop!
Something told me, you better go, or you're gonna die.
Not another step or I'll shoot!
The underbrush behind him cracked violently, branches snapping under the weight of something enormous moving toward him. He was surrounded. In front of him, the roaring beast. Behind him, something else closing in fast. His instincts screamed one word: run. He turned and sprinted, crashing through the brush, his rifle clutched tight. His legs felt heavy, almost like the forest itself was trying to hold him back. In his panic, he stumbled, the rifle slipping from his hands. For a moment, despair hit him. He considered leaving it behind, but the thought of being unarmed out there, with those things, was worse than death itself. He scrambled, picked it up, and kept running, heart pounding in his ears. Every step was agony. His legs grew weaker, each stride heavier. He stumbled again, collapsing to the ground, breath burning in his lungs. He rolled onto his back, raising his weapon, eyes darting into the darkness. He could hear them, branches breaking, footsteps pounding, guttural sounds all around, but he couldn't see them.
I'm trying to run, but I'm so afraid that my legs felt like they weighed 500 pounds. I feel like I couldn't move. And he's in the woods about 50 feet from me. We were running like that. I was running to my truck, and he was flanking me over to the left.
And then one of the creatures burst from the trees. Mike braced for the attack, but instead of lunging at him, the beast did something unexpected. It sprinted past him, crashing deeper into the forest as if answering some call. The ground shook beneath its strides, the roar echoing long after it vanished from sight. Mike's relief was short-lived, because now his mind turned to the second creature, the one he hadn't yet seen. He scrambled to his feet, every nerve screaming. Somewhere above him, branches shifted, and he realized with horror that something was moving through the trees, shadowing him from above.
I'm running down a logging road. It's pretty clean, but he was running through trees, and he was just bulldozing them. He got those big thorn trees, and they got thorns on them like that. They'll cut you. If you touch, you get cut bad. But he was running through that stuff. I mean, it was like he mowing it down. And then, I could hear him.
Fueled by pure terror, he bolted again, this time toward the faint memory of where he had parked his Jeep. The shadows shifted all around him, every flicker of movement making him believe the creature was about to strike. Finally, through the trees, he saw it, his Jeep, salvation. He ran faster, rifle clutched tight, refusing to turn his back on the forest. Every second, he expected claws or hands to grab him from behind.
A hostile, mean way. You could tell he was trying to get there. And I just said, these things they're everywhere. I don't want to die.
Who is that?
I knew they'd overrun me. So I take out running down that road fast I could, started running toward my truck. I was ready to run like, I'll get out, because I was scared. With no gun, I know who the guy can be.
The creature hadn't attacked, but its presence loomed, taunting him, reminding him that his rifle, a Remington .270 high-powered gun, felt like nothing more than a child's toy against something of that size. By the time he reached his Jeep, Mike was drenched in sweat, his body trembling. He backed toward the vehicle, refusing to look away from the tree line, where the creature's silhouette still lingered. Watching, waiting. It never attacked, but it didn't need to. The sheer weight of its presence had left Mike a broken man. Years later, when he tells the story, his voice still quivers.
I'm running. I'm trying to run, but I'm so afraid that my legs felt like they weighed 500 pounds. I feel like I couldn't move. And so here he comes. He's chasing me. And he's in the woods about 50 feet from me. We were running.
His eyes water, his body shakes, as if the memory itself pulls him back into those woods. He doesn't sound like someone making up a tale for attention. He sounds like a man reliving the worst night of his life. Mike was a hunter, experienced and brave. But in the Louisiana woods that night, the hunter became the hunted. And to this day, he knows one truth. Whatever those creatures were, they let him go. And that thought is somehow more terrifying than if they had finished the hunt. The YouTube channel. The Flex Tapes has built a strong reputation among lovers of the outdoors. From wild camping to long hikes, especially around the hills of Cumbria, his adventures usually carry the thrill of solitude and the beauty of nature. But this time, he took things a step further. Not just into the woods, not just a tent in the open, but deep into the forgotten countryside, where an abandoned farmhouse lay rotting in the middle of nowhere. His plan, to spend the night there alone. From the very beginning, the tone felt unsettling. The building was broken, weather-beaten, and clearly untouched for decades. Walls were cracked, furniture decayed, and every corner whispered of lives that had once filled the space.
Yeah, I don't think a lot's changed, to be quite honest. Look at that, that's moved. That used to be in there, near the sink. We've got a steel bath. There's a fire where last time we were here, Dan had a fire.
The sign of life was there, but so was the overwhelming sense of emptiness. As daylight faded into the thick shadows of night, he stepped inside with his camera, both nervous and excited, unaware of the terror the night would bring. Exploring the rooms one by one, the eerie silence pressed on him. Broken doors swayed with the draft. Paint peeled from the walls like skin. But still, he pushed on.
Just noticed as well, a couple of weird things talking about. There's a newspaper, and this, which I think's off a chair. I'm not gonna, 1985. So if you're seeing this video now, everything's fine. Yeah, so we're upstairs, and not a lot has changed. This bed is ruined, this isn't the bed I'm going to sleep in. I love how that's still there, and the curtains. I just love that, and just thinking about, when was that last used? Who was the last person to look in that mirror?
Eventually, he found a bedroom, its rusted bed frame leaning but still intact. With nowhere else to go, he chose it as his resting spot. The idea of sleeping inside such a place felt wrong, but he laid down, letting his camera continue recording in the corner. Then it happened. A sound that cut straight through the silence. Footsteps, heavy, deliberate, echoing on the creaking floorboards. His mind jolted awake, instinct screaming that this wasn't just the old house settling. Someone or something was moving. Panic surged. He grabbed the camera and turned it toward the sound. The corridor stretched into blackness. No escape routes, no second door. Just one narrow path leading deeper into the darkness. Trapped, on the bed, his breath might be quickening. The camera shook as he tried to stay hidden. And then the proof. Movement. A faint glow of light bobbed in the doorway. Shadows shifted as if someone was slowly, carefully walking through the house. The sound of boots against wood carried through the ruined building, closing in. Alone, defenseless, the camper whispered under his breath that, praying it was all in his imagination. But the light was real. The footsteps were real. Something, or some creep, was in that house with him. The terror became unbearable. He grabbed his pack, stuffed what he could, and bolted. Out of the bedroom, out of the house, into the night. His breath tore through the silence as he ran.
Luckily, I had no lights on, so that won't given away that anyone was in there. Maybe innocently just a farmer checking the place out, I don't know.
Refusing to look back. The camera caught only fragments, the crunch of grass underfoot, the blur of shadows, the sheer panic of escape. This was supposed to be another outdoor adventure, another night in the wild. Instead, it became a horrifying reminder. Abandoned places are abandoned for a reason. And this time, the Flex tapes learned that some doors are better left unopened. Creepy Outdoors has gained attention for exactly what its name promises. Unsettling explorations of eerie places, often with the host camping alone in locations most people would never dare to visit. He thrives on danger, spending nights in forests, abandoned buildings, and haunted stretches of wilderness. But on this particular trip, his fearless curiosity brought him face to face with something far more disturbing than he ever expected. It began like any of his usual solo camping adventures. He pitched his camp deep inside a familiar forest, one he had visited many times before. Until now, nothing strange had ever happened. But that's the fun and the risk of solo camping. No matter how safe a place feels during the day, once the night falls, the woods can transform into something entirely different. Darkness swept over the trees, swallowing the campsite in silence. Then came the sound. Faint at first, but unusual enough to pull him from the safety of his tent. Torch in hand, he stepped into the void. The beam illuminated only fragments of the dense forest, while beyond it, everything was pitch black. If he turned the light off, he'd be standing in complete blindness. He searched the undergrowth, camera trembling as it followed his movements. And then, cutting through the silence, came a voice. Low, deliberate, and terrifyingly close. "I see you." His breath hitched. Someone, or something, was out there, hidden just beyond the reach of his light. Most people would have frozen or fled, but his reaction was unsettling in its own way. He muttered back, almost casually, "Oh, hi."
Oh, hi.
But the facade of bravery cracked fast. Realizing just how alone he was, he turned and bolted, sprinting back to his camp. The woods swallowed the sound behind him, leaving only questions and one haunting phrase echoing in the dark. The channel Exploring with a Bear is run by Jer Bear, a YouTuber known for pushing himself into dangerous and terrifying situations. His adventures usually revolve around searching for Bigfoot, cryptids, and other unknown entities while camping in the wildest locations he can find. But in one particular video, Jer found himself in a place with a history darker than most. A stretch of forest near an old set of railway tracks, where caves lie hidden in the mountains. This wasn't just another creepy camping trip. This was a place where death itself seemed to linger.
Welcome back to another scary, probably terrifying camping adventure. If you're new to the channel, I'm Jer Bear, and for tonight's terrifying camping adventure, I have brought you to this haunted forest. We're going to be searching for cryptids, Bigfoot my boy, Dogman, and skinwalkers, or the crawlers, whatever those things are that like the caves. There's some caves right behind me here.
The stories about these woods are chilling. Locals avoid them entirely, claiming the area is haunted. Some say too many lives were lost here, killings, tragedies, and unexplained vanishings.
But that's not it. I found out some more crazy stories about this place. For one, there has been many lives lost right at this location right here from people either, themselves or other people doing something bad to somebody else.
One bizarre story even tells of two men found wandering naked along the railroad tracks, confused and shaken. They claimed they had been held captive in those woods for days, though they had no memory of who or what held them there.
There was another story from another person that said two guys was found naked walking down this railroad tracks right here, and when they were picked up and questioned, they said they was being held for days in the woods right behind me.
With that weight of history pressing down, Jer set up camp right in front of a cave entrance. His idea was simple. If anything came through, he'd see it. He built a fire, the flames casting long shadows against the cave's gaping mouth.
So here in a minute, we'll go ahead and get our fire started and sit here and just soak it in. I'm right in front of this cave entrance here, and I just want to sit here for a bit and see if we can't see anything passing along the cave.
As night fell, the silence grew suffocating. Then came the sound. A sharp clank echoed down the mountainside. Not a random noise, but deliberate, like two rocks struck together. It felt like a signal, a warning, or even a lure. His original plan had been to climb the mountain and investigate, but fear anchored him to the spot.
There's no way that was a rock just falling. You know what I mean? That was a deliberate, that was two rocks hitting each other. So now I'm trying to build up the nerve to go into that. That sounded like it was so close. I don't know exactly where it was, but we have to go right over here, and that's where that clap is.
Still, curiosity gnawed at him, and eventually, he forced himself toward the cave. Inside, the air was colder, heavier. Every sound seemed amplified. At one point, he thought he saw movement on the railway tracks, a shadow stepping across before vanishing again. Was his mind playing tricks, or was something stalking him?
Something's just moving down here. Ooh. What's that? Wow, man, something just was stepping right there, but there's nothing there.
Then came the moment that turned unease into pure terror. From deep within the cave, a low growl vibrated through the stone walls. It wasn't just an echo, it was alive. And then, it barked. The sharp animalistic sound sent panic racing through Jer. He bolted from the cave, stumbling back into the night air, heart pounding.
Whew. No way. No way. No frickin' way. No frickin' way. No frickin' way. No frickin' way.
What was it that night? A person hiding in the darkness? A drifter? A junkie or something far stranger? A caveman? A creature? Maybe even the legendary hairy man himself? Whatever it was, Jer wasn't about to find out.
I don't think there was a person in there. There was a growl, and then it said, "Let's get him." I'm going to have to go back and check that footage, but I'm pretty sure you're going to hear everything I heard. And that was a growl, and then right after the growl, "Let's get him."
This wasn't just a creepy camping trip. It was a reminder that some places carry scars too deep, and some caves hide secrets best left undisturbed. The Appalachian Trail is legendary. Stretching more than 2,000 miles across the eastern United States, it's known not only for its breathtaking beauty, but also for its long, dark history of disappearances, strange encounters, and even cryptid sightings. And in one particularly notorious stretch, a hiker named Hike Slam, alongside his wife, Courtney, decided to film an exploration for his YouTube channel. What they captured there may be one of the eeriest Appalachian videos yet. This section of the trail already carries a grim reputation. Locals remember it as the place where 4-year-old Ottie Klein Powell went missing in November of 1891. After straying from Tower Hill Schoolhouse, the boy's body was discovered months later on April 5, 1892, a full 7 miles away. The story haunts the Appalachian community to this day, and the ground where it happened is whispered to carry an energy of sorrow, and sometimes something darker. As the couple walked the trail during the daytime, the woods carried a heavy silence. The deeper they went, the stranger it became. Hike Slam's camera picked up a series of bizarre discoveries, scattered almost deliberately across the area.
About 50 feet off the top of Bluff Mountain is this little memorial here. So it says, "This is the exact spot little Audie Klein Powell's body was found April 5th, 1891, after straying from Tower Hill Schoolhouse, November 9th, a distance of 7 miles. Age 4 years, 11 months.
First was an old oil bottle tossed on the ground. Across its surface, written in permanent marker, were notes, ramblings that didn't seem to make sense, like someone trying to leave behind a message but unable to form it clearly. Then came a rock, etched with writing. The words looked like a warning, though the meaning wasn't clear. A few steps away, another rock, this one also bearing crude handwriting. When the video slows, you can see more scrawled messages, each one unsettling, each one placed with intent. And then, something worse. The body of a dead duck, left deliberately beside the writings. A chilling offering, or perhaps some kind of ritual. It raised the same question every viewer had: who would do this?
The weirdness continues. And there's a dead duck here.
As the couple pressed on, they discovered a long note, written out in messy, manic lettering. The words were almost too chaotic to follow, but they carried a tone of obsession, anger, maybe even warning. Just as Hike Slam leaned closer to read, the air shifted. From somewhere nearby came the sound of fire crackling. Not the distant pop of branches or the hiss of wind, an unmistakable sound of flames alive in the woods. But when he turned his camera toward the source, there was no campfire in sight.
Very long note. And it looks like it was just put here because it's not wet. That duck is fairly recently. Alright. Kind of creepy.
That's when the weight of the place truly settled in. The writings, the strange offerings, the sound of fire, all of it building toward a single realization. They weren't alone out there. Despite all of this, Hike Slam announced he would be spending the night in that very spot, alone with only his wife, the trees, and whatever, or whoever, was lurking nearby. His bravery is one thing, but some might call it recklessness. Because when you add together the tragic history, the warning scrawled on stone, the dead animal left behind, and the phantom sound of fire, one thing is clear: this wasn't just a trail. This was a place marked. So who was leaving those messages? Was it a person living feral in the woods? A cult? Or was it something far older, tied to the trail's haunted history? The truth remains hidden in the Appalachian shadows. But one thing's for certain: few would dare sleep where Hike Slam and Courtney chose to stay. The YouTube channel, The Hoggett Project, is run by a solo camper who thrives on pushing himself into the unknown. His videos often document early morning treks into wild and remote landscapes, where silence is his only companion. But in one particular outing, what started as an ordinary exploration became one of the most unsettling experiences he's ever captured on film. It was still dark when he set off, hiking miles into the wilderness to reach a clearing 3 miles from the trailhead. As the faint light of dawn crept through the trees, the world around him grew eerily quiet. The forest, normally alive with the chatter of birds and rustling leaves, felt hushed, as if it was holding its breath.
Following behind some horses or something because I've been smelling animal. Oh, you heard that, right?
Then came the sound. Footsteps. Not his own, not the echo of boots on the trail, but heavy, deliberate movements in the brush off to his left. He froze instantly. Every instinct told him he was no longer alone. Slowly, cautiously, he turned his head toward the sound. His breathing quickened as he scanned the tree line. Nothing. He forced himself to walk forward, his steps measured, eyes darting between the trees. Then he lowered himself into a crouch, letting the brush conceal him. And that's when he saw it. A silhouette, tall, broad shoulders, a sunken head, and a frame far too large to be an ordinary person. Just beyond the tree line, it loomed. The figure didn't move aggressively. It didn't charge. It simply stood, watching, as though it had no business with him but every reason to be there. The moment burned into his mind. But strangely, when he reviewed his footage later, the figure wasn't there. Frame by frame, he scrubbed through the video, desperate to find proof. And while the exact silhouette he remembered was missing, something else surfaced. Strange images, shadows of figures, distorted shapes lurking in the background, things that didn't quite fit with the rest of the environment.
Oh, you heard that right.
What he saw that morning was impossible to dismiss. He considered explanations. Could it have been another hiker? But why would someone else be crouched deep in the brush, this far from the trailhead, before sunrise? Could it have been a bear? Black bears do roam this region, but bears don't stand tall on two legs, and they certainly don't cast a human-like outline. He even wondered if it could have been a homeless person living off-grid in the forest. But that explanation felt thin. What stuck with him most was the clarity of the sighting. It wasn't a trick of the light. Dawn was already brightening the sky. This wasn't a flickering shadow or an illusion. He was certain that what he saw was alive, solid, and real.
I mean, it's bright out here, and it was almost like it was a pure shadow that I was watching. Could have been a black bear. This is a wild place, but it was trying to be stealthy walking through the woods. But yeah, it could just be a homeless person, huh?
In the end, he chose to continue his hike, though the unease lingered. The forest felt heavier, darker, as if the trees themselves were watching. When he finally returned home, he left his viewers with a chilling message. Solo camping can be thrilling, but it can also be fatal. Out there, miles from safety.
Okay, it's only 6:48. If this wasn't so hilly, that would be like kind of my ideal layout.
There are things in the wilderness that you may not be prepared for. If you've got people waiting for you back home, think twice. No, think thrice, before heading into the wild alone. Have you ever filmed something so ordinary, only to find, hidden in a single frame, something extraordinary? That's exactly what happened when two creators filmed a backyard survival challenge. On playback, viewers noticed something strange. A dark figure standing upright, obscured by trees. It wasn't addressed in the video, but there it was. Tall, broad, rigidly still. Not a crew member, not a prop. Watch yourself.
No, this can't be, this can't be. No, this guy's gotta be wrong, he's gotta be wrong. That's right where we are.
The freeze frame spread fast. Users started speculating. Was it a person, a suit, or something else entirely? The silhouette didn't match human proportions. Shoulders too wide, head too forward. and the way it blended into the brush, unnatural. The creators took it seriously. What started as a game turned into an investigation. They returned to the spot with cameras, thermal imaging, and casting material. The original tree line wasn't far from the house, but once you stepped past the lawn, the landscape changed quickly. Dense thickets, narrow game trails, quiet, but not empty. Watch yourself.
Logan, if that's not Bigfoot, I don't know what that is, okay? And that was taken literally 50 yards from this house. Now, I triangulated the forest behind us, and if you check it out on the Bigfoot map forum, there is a lot of sightings here. There's even newspaper articles about Bigfoot being seen in this area.
That's when they found the first track. Pressed deep into the soil, wide, with splayed toes, no shoe pattern. Whatever left it had weight. And it wasn't alone. Another track was found 6 feet ahead. Same shape, same size. The stride was massive. They followed it, slowly, carefully. Branches above shoulder level were broken, not crushed by wind, snapped. Bark scraped off from mid-tree height. A heavy passage, intentional movement. One of the team spotted a hair sample tangled in a split branch, nearly 7 feet up. Coarse, gray-brown, root attached. They sealed it in a collection tube. Watch yourself.
It's feeding time.
What?
Yo, there's like water in there too. Look at that. There's like scratch marks all along this log.
What are those?
I don't know. Logan is heading across now. Gonna try and find a path over this massive ditch.
No wildlife approached the area. Even when they left fruit as bait, it remained untouched. But something was moving parallel to them. Out of sight, but not out of range. On thermal, there was a flicker. Something warm, crouched low. It moved between 2 trees and disappeared. Not a deer, not a raccoon, and too fast for any known animal that size. Further in, they discovered claw marks on a fallen log. Fresh, 4 deep grooves, 2 spaced apart for any local carnivore. The bark hadn't aged yet. Whatever made it was here recently. Close. Watch yourself.
Okay, so Jake's taking the long way around. I found a path that connects us to the river. But since I've been here alone, I've been hearing a lot of weird things in the woods. I don't think it's Bigfoot, guys. In my opinion, I think Jake's just done a little bit too much research and, you know, he's acting a little crazy. But that's just between you and me.
As darkness fell, the environment shifted. The insects stopped. A heavy rustle echoed from behind. Then, a rock fell. Not rolled, dropped. A tree cracked somewhere uphill. Nothing vocal, but enough to know something was watching. Not charging, not fleeing, just present. They stopped at the edge of a ravine. Visibility dropped to 0. It wasn't fear that turned them around, it was instinct. Too many unknowns, and something didn't want to be seen. Watch yourself.
Hairy-looking monster roaming at night. The picture that I took from our last video definitely concerned me, but I still wasn't sure for myself, so we had to push forward, putting all that behind us.
The next morning, they returned. The casts had set. What came out of the ground showed clear impressions. 5 toes, mid-tarsal break, no arch. One was 16 inches long. The weight distribution was off-center, like a creature used to walking uneven terrain. The hair was sent for analysis. No confirmed match, but it didn't align with deer, bear, or canine samples from the region. It remains unidentified. No one was attacked. No structures were found. But what they experienced wasn't entertainment. It was something quietly disturbing. Just far enough outside normal to leave doubt. Just close enough to leave no comfort. Watch yourself.
That's a pretty big foot.
Yeah, we'll be able to get a better imprint of what it looks like once we pull this out, but we're gonna need to let it harden. Now we just gotta wait 30 minutes for that to set, and then we can pull it out. I'm not feeling this. Okay, freak it.
I keep hearing things.
Yeah. Yo, and I know I saw something on that footage, man.
What do you think they captured? A coincidence shaped by branches and shadow? Or a brief accidental glimpse into something watching from the woods? Drop your thoughts below. Have you ever filmed something and only noticed the strange part later? Have you ever looked up at a mountain ridge and wondered if someone or something was watching from the tree line? Jessica C. never expected that moving to a quiet peak above Dworshak Reservoir would open a doorway to years of strange and unexplained encounters. As a teenager, newly relocated from Boise, she found herself immersed in a forested wilderness unlike anything she'd known. Towering ridges, heavy snowfalls, and thick brush hiding what she would only later understand to be significant. Her family settled on the Orofino side of the mountain in '96. Across a dirt road from their 5-acre homestead sat a massive rounded peak they nicknamed Mr. N's Knob Hill. It belonged to their neighbor, who owned hundreds of acres that wrapped around their home. From their porch, the mountaintop seemed deceptively small, an illusion created by its perfect curves and the tree line hugging the summit. But climbing it proved otherwise. No matter how far they went, the top never seemed to get closer. One spring, when the snow had finally melted and the dense canopy dripped with rain, Jessica and her younger siblings ventured out into the draw near their property. They had spent their early days watching wildlife, digging through the underbrush, and exploring the land. The first few times out, they noticed trillium blooming, beautiful 3-petaled flowers peeking through the pine needles. But not long after, they started hearing something else, a rhythmic clacking, like stones being tapped together. The sound would come in bursts, 5 or 6 taps, then shift locations. Always just out of view, always from the deepest parts of the timber. The sounds weren't all. As they pushed deeper into the draw, something shifted. Jessica recalls a growing unease, a presence she couldn't name. Loud cracks echoed from the brush near the fence line. Then they came upon it, a young tree, thick as a human arm, bent unnaturally into an arch. Jessica describes it as a doorway, still held together by bark, but broken clean in at least 2 places. Just past it lay a fallen log where they'd sat the day before, now marked by 3 stones. The trillium they'd admired had been stomped flat. She was sure her siblings were pranking her. But they denied it. Jessica couldn't shake the feeling that the arch and the rocks were intentional, almost like a message or a boundary. Something had been there, watching. Years passed, but the unease never left. Between 1996 and 2003, Jessica experienced more than one moment that defied explanation. Strange feelings of being watched, unnerving stillness in the trees. And on one unforgettable day, she saw them. A group of tall figures walking casually up the opposite mountain slope. From her vantage point, they appeared to be moving with calm purpose, like a family out for a stroll. But their proportions were off. Their gait, smooth, powerful, not human. Now in her mid-30s, Jessica reflects on those moments with more clarity. She's no Bigfoot expert, she says, but she doesn't need to be. She simply shares what she saw and felt, leaving the interpretation up to others. The mountain that towered above her childhood home still holds its secrets, but she's no longer afraid to speak about them. Watch yourself. What do you think Jessica encountered near Dworshak Reservoir? Have you ever seen or heard something in the woods that stayed with you for years? Let us know your thoughts. In every story, a question lingers. Was it myth stepping into the light, or something even stranger? These encounters may fade into the fog of memory, but the fear remains. So tell us, which moment struck you the deepest? And could you face the woods again, knowing what might still walk there? When it comes to understanding why Bigfoot has eluded definitive discovery for generations, no analysis is more compelling than that from RMSO, the Rocky Mountain Sasquatch Organization. Their detailed breakdown helps illuminate the reasons behind this creature's vanishing acts and stealthy survival. First and foremost, RMSO reminds us of a simple fact. Bigfoot is extremely rare. That alone makes encounters scarce. But rarity alone doesn't explain the near invisibility. It's the creature's intelligence, its instinct to avoid humans, that makes the difference. As RMSO puts it, this is an animal that knows humans are dangerous, not just to it, but to the entire ecosystem. Eyewitness accounts, photographs, and videos consistently show Bigfoot with hair colors that blend seamlessly into the environment: black, brown, red, blonde, and even white. Remarkably, there are theories, and even supporting accounts, suggesting Bigfoot may seasonally change its hair color, turning white in the winter like weasels, snowshoe hares, or ptarmigans. That alone would place it among a very select group of advanced mammals with adaptive camouflage. But RMSO takes this a step further, with a startling hypothesis. Some eyewitnesses have reported Bigfoot with hair that doesn't just blend, it bends light. Like a living stealth suit, the hair might scatter, refract, or reflect light in ways that distort visibility, even at close range.
First one was just standing there, kind of, it was really weird, like a reflective light almost, kind of, when I moved. He was just there. It was scowling. He was scowling and kind of looking, and it was probably about 5 seconds, and then he kind of like huffed, and you can see all the cold coming out of his nose.
One example is Matthew Anderson's encounter. Just a month after a Bigfoot was filmed in the same area, Anderson claims to have come face to face with not one, but 2 large creatures. He described the experience as surreal, as if light was bouncing off the creature in an unnatural way. It was standing still, yet had a kind of reflective distortion. When it moved, the cold breath was visible, but the outline remained difficult to track. To support this, RMSO points to examples from nature, specifically the polar bear. Though their fur appears white, it's actually made of transparent, hollow tubes. This hair funnels light down to their black skin for warmth, and also helps them remain buoyant while swimming. Photos of what RMSO believes to be a Yeti in Russia also support the idea. These high-resolution images show the creature nearly disappearing into its surroundings, despite being up close. The hair seems to refract light in such a way that it becomes difficult for the human eye to focus on it. In one field investigation, RMSO collected 2 large wads of hair near a documented trackway. They sent samples to 3 universities and 1 museum. To date, none have matched it to any known species.
At the request of 3 universities and 1 museum, we sent large, generous samples at the end of 2013 to all of these places. To this day, none of them have admitted to making a match with any known mammal. A step or 2 away from this hair, it appears to be grayish blue. From a distance, gray, and it just seems to melt into the background.
When examined under a microscope, the hair revealed something extraordinary, minimal to no medulla, the protein core found in most mammalian hair. Add to this the diverse natural coloring, a mixture of gray, black, blonde, red, and brown. And the result is a nearly perfect camouflage system, enhanced by an optical trick of the light itself. No wonder Bigfoot has remained the undefeated champion of hide and seek. He didn't go out there expecting this. Deep in the wilderness, surrounded by thick moss and towering trees, something unexpected crossed his path. From the Mountain Beast Mysteries channel, this was supposed to be just another expedition. But what he found out there, it changed everything. It all started with a footprint, a clear, bare, human-like footprint, right there in the moss. You could see it, the heel, the narrowing shape, the toes spread out just enough. It wasn't a perfect print, but it was enough to freeze him in place. It didn't look like a bear. It didn't look like anything he could easily explain. And if it really was Bigfoot, this would be his first track ever. See for yourself.
It looks like toes, I mean. If this is from a Bigfoot, it's the first track I've ever found. And it's a shame it's in the moss, because it'd be nice to try and cast one.
The print sits right in the moss, deep enough to hold its shape. It looks like something walked barefoot through that area. The toes, the heel, the length all there. It's hard to cast a print in moss, but there's no doubt it's an impression. This wasn't just a random dent. It's wide, long, and real. But it didn't stop there. Not long after, he spotted something strange. A heavy branch wedged between tree limbs, high off the ground. It wasn't something that fell naturally. The nearby trees didn't match the type of branch. It was out of place, almost like something had intentionally put it there. Maybe a marker, maybe a sign. Or maybe it was just the first clue that he wasn't alone. As night fell, the feeling of being watched only grew stronger. He stayed near camp, setting up trail cameras, ready for anything. But when it got dark, things got serious.
When all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we were all startled to hear a loud crack and what sounded like a small tree falling over very close to our camp area, but just out of sight and a little ways into the trees. This set the tone for the rest of the expedition. We immediately grabbed the cameras and wandered off into the darkness in search of whatever caused this disturbance. Lesson learned? Always have your cameras rolling.
A loud crack, a small tree snapping nearby. It wasn't far. It was loud enough to make everyone stop. They scrambled to grab cameras, heading into the trees to figure out what caused the sound. They didn't see anything, but that sound, that crack, set the tone for the night. From then on, every step felt like something was watching. Later, while walking back to their vehicle, they found something no one expected. Take a look at this.
Yeah, we were walking up the car here. I was just about to get some more stuff before we head out, and we noticed a few of these kind of strange looking handprints, like up to my hand. You can see what would be the palm, or what looks like the palm is a little bit lower. So it almost looks as though something maybe put a hand on here and then peered in.
Two strange handprints on the vehicle's side window. They weren't there when they arrived. They weren't from the crew. The handprints didn't line up with where anyone would naturally place their hands. The palms pressed lower, the fingers spread wide, and the print size was unusual. What stood out most, clear dermal ridges. That's a primate trait, not something you see from random animal marks. The group had no explanation. Could a juvenile Bigfoot have walked through their camp, peering into their vehicle? Or was it someone else? The prints didn't smear like you'd expect from rushed movement. They were deliberate, like something paused there. But the most convincing evidence came near the end of their trip. Another footprint appeared, even larger than the first. It was wide. The toes were fully splayed, and the pressure was real. Watch this clip closely.
Right here, we have another potential track. And I could just be imagining it, but what I kind of am visualizing is it coming to here and going around here. And it would be like the left foot coming. These would be where the toes are here.
A massive track pressed into the forest floor. Around 12.5 inches, the toes spread naturally, just like prints seen in other Sasquatch cases. The midsection was broad. The steps seemed natural, not staged or accidental. This wasn't the only track. Another impression nearby showed movement. Something big had been there, moving through that space. Throughout the trip, signs piled up. Strange sounds, tree markers, handprints, and those striking footprints. It wasn't a blurry shape or faraway noise. It was physical. It was close. It's the kind of evidence that makes you think. Could it really be Bigfoot? Was something out there watching them, moving through their camp when no one was looking? What do you think left those prints? Could Bigfoot have been right there all along? Have you ever felt like the forest was listening? Not just quiet, but aware, as if the stillness around you was holding its breath. That's exactly how Richard described the moment before it happened. In January 2021, somewhere along a quiet pine trail in New Zealand's North Island, he stepped into something he couldn't explain. It wasn't just a feeling, something was there. Richard wasn't a cryptid hunter or thrill seeker. He was filming a personal message, a tribute to love and the unseen patterns that shape our world. The forest around him was calm, windless, but as his words touched on connection, consciousness, and ancient memory, something changed. Then came the sounds. First, a deep thump, far off but unmistakable. Then another. Richard paused, camera still rolling. A third hit, closer this time. The ground seemed to shudder with each impact, like something impossibly heavy was moving nearby, on 2 feet. He turned the camera toward the tree line. Nothing but stillness, no birds, no movement. Just that low, humming tension that creeps in when the forest holds its secrets tight. And then, just for a second, a face, half-hidden, gray-toned and watching him from the brush. Its features weren't human, but they weren't fully beast either. The eyes were set wide, the brow heavy. It didn't blink, it didn't move, but it was there. Watch the moment Richard didn't scream or run. He simply stepped back and kept the camera steady. When he returned to the same spot hours later, what he found shook him even more. A circle of pine branches carefully snapped and arranged in a spiral. Not natural fall, not random. Each branch placed deliberately, forming what looked like a symbol or sign. This wasn't there before, and no one else had passed through that stretch of forest. In Maori folklore, there's a figure called the moha man, a large, silent being said to dwell in remote mountain forests. Most dismiss it as legend, but Richard's footage sparked renewed curiosity. The symmetry of the stick formation, the impact sounds, and that face. Skeptics pointed to pareidolia, seeing faces in patterns of leaves and shadow. Others argued it was staged, but the video remained raw and unedited. No cuts, no digital effects, just a man, a camera, and something watching him from the trees. And then there's the moment itself, the strange timing. The knocks only began once Richard's words shifted toward themes of love, memory, and unseen energy, as if whatever was out there responded to emotion, not noise. Since posting the video, Richard hasn't gone looking again, but he hasn't stopped thinking about that day either. Not just what he saw, but how it made him feel. A presence that wasn't threatening, but aware, intelligent, listening. Could it be that the moha man isn't just a relic of old stories, but part of a larger truth hiding in plain sight? And if so, why does it only appear to those who feel, not just those who seek? What do you think Richard encountered that day? Was it legend coming to life, or something we still don't have the language to explain? Have you ever wondered what's hiding in the forests of Western Virginia, just beyond the ridgeline? Not far from the border of West Virginia, a hunter named Roger Williams was preparing for deer season. Like many hunters, he used trail cameras, motion-triggered devices strapped to trees to monitor wildlife. In these quiet Appalachian woods, he didn't expect anything out of the ordinary, but what one of his cameras captured made him stop cold. Watch yourself.
On our way to meet a guy named Roger Williams, his hunting club got a very interesting photo of something which could be a Sasquatch.
It's opening day of deer season, a time when wildlife scatters, sensing the change. And while hunters ready themselves for whitetail, another kind of mystery begins to unfold in the shadows. A photograph, taken quietly in these ridges thick with bear, deer, and old mountain silence, has stirred debate. Is this a young Sasquatch, or simply a bear caught in a strange posture? The image is raw, unclear, yet strangely suggestive. Broad shoulders, long arms, defined glutes, traits not typical of a bear. Locals speak of strange growls echoing across Kaywood Reservoir at 2 a.m., movements in the dark, a sense of something else watching from deeper in the timber. Roger stared at it for hours. It's not a deer, not a hog. It's not what I usually get on camera, he said. When the Finding Bigfoot team arrived, they looked at the area firsthand. What they saw was typical Bigfoot country: remote hollows, deer trails, clean spring water, and dense cover. All the ingredients for a reclusive, intelligent creature to live undetected. Opening day of deer season had just started, so wildlife in the area was already behaving differently. As Roger explained, deer tend to move toward no hunting zones when pressure increases. The team speculated, if Bigfoot exists and preys on deer, it would likely follow the herds into those safe zones. That strategy, they believed, could explain why sightings increase around hunting season. Reactions to the image varied. Some said it was a juvenile bear, others weren't so sure. The limb proportions looked off, the arm long, the heel visible. What made Roger pause most wasn't just the shape, it was the glute muscles. "Bears don't have butts like that," he joked, but there was a serious anatomical point there. Many Bigfoot witnesses report a stocky, muscular build with a noticeably broad posterior, something missing from any known North American mammal. Watch yourself.
I've seen bears in all different situations. Looking at this photograph, I see nothing but a black bear. That's exactly what the fur looks like.
To test the figure's scale and form, Bobo recreated the shot. He crouched in the same location, trying to match the posture exactly. They compared both images. Bobo's shoulder width, leg bend, and limb thickness were different. Despite being a grown man, his proportions didn't quite match what was captured. The trail cam figure remained an outlier. Too small for a man, too human-like for a bear. Adding to the mystery, Roger recalled a separate incident from just over the ridge at Kaywood Reservoir. A solo camper heard something vocalizing deep in the woods around 2 a.m. Not a coyote, not an owl. A chesty, resonant growl that rose and fell like speech. It happened 3 times. Then silence. The sound echoed across the water. No one else was around. Could it be connected? It's easy to dismiss blurry images or strange sounds, but sometimes it's the subtle patterns that raise the most compelling questions. Deer move, bears forage, but something else may be watching, shifting with the seasons, staying just far enough away. So look again. What did Roger capture that day? A curious bear? A trick of light? Or a young Sasquatch caught mid-movement, unaware that it had just been seen? If your pulse is still racing, you're not alone. From farmhouse footsteps to glowing eyes floating 8 feet up, these encounters leave a mark, and sometimes a warning. Which moment rattled you the most? Tell us below. And if you've lived through something you can't explain, in the woods, in a cave, on a lonely trail, drop your story in the comments. We may feature it in our next episode. Hit subscribe and tap the bell so you don't miss what's coming. The wild keeps secrets, and we're not done prying them loose. Until then, keep your light charged, your head on a swivel, and never ignore that feeling when the forest goes quiet. We'll see you on the next one, if you're brave enough to watch.